Hi everyone, it's Eileen here. Thanks so much for clicking on my video, and you're very welcome to my YouTube channel. So today I'm going to talk about piano practice essentials. I put together a list of 10 top tips for best piano practice. I've also created a downloadable PDF of piano practice essentials with all of these tips included, and you can find this below in the video description. So thanks for watching, and let's get started. So tip number 1, position and lighting. So ideally, you'll have your piano or keyboard set up in a nice bright and spacious room. So you'll want nice and natural light in a room with a window if you can, with a reading lamp nearby for the evening and night time. So your sheet music and books are well lit. You should also consider having your piano in a prominent position, such as the living room or perhaps a spare room, where it's easily accessible and visible, and it serves as a reminder to do your practice. And you should be mindful of your own position sitting at the piano, so your posture is really important as it ensures you have the maximum level of flexibility to reach all the keys and helps you to learn the proper technique for striking the keys. A comfortable, adjustable piano stool at the correct height is a must also. Tip number 2, practice time. You should choose the best time of the day for you to practice and make it routine and be consistent with it. Depending on what level of playing you're at, all piano learners and players need at least 30 minutes of piano practice per day, ideally. And sometimes this isn't always possible. We might have a busy week, or we might simply just forget. The best thing to do in that case is just to get back to it the following day. It's better to do short and frequent amounts than long practice sessions which are tiring and demotivating. And let's say you do need to put in long practice hours if you have an exam or recital coming up. Make sure you get plenty of breaks to keep your focus sharp. Tip number 3, practice slowly. And this is really important for beginners and advanced players. So you cannot expect to play fluently and fast without first knowing your notes and really knowing them to the point of having them memorized or almost memorized. The aim is to start with slow practice and then speeding up each time until the correct tempo is reached. So it's a fantastic way for developing fingering, technique, articulation, hand coordination, dynamics, and more. So you're slowing down and giving yourself the chance to learn the notes first and then to absorb all the other things easier than you would trying to learn them all together and at speed. Tip number 4, set clear and achievable goals. One way of doing this is by setting SMART goals. So first on the list, specific. Is your goal specific enough? Measurable. Is there a way to measure whether you've reached your goal? Is there a way to measure progress towards reaching your larger goals? Achievable. Is your goal achievable, yet difficult enough to challenge you? Realistic. Is this goal realistic or attainable? So you should challenge yourself, but it's also important to make sure it's in the realm of possibility. And it's important that your goal is something that you really want as well. Desire is an important key to learning because it will give you the resolve to work when things get hard. Timely. Can you place a time frame on when you want to accomplish your goals? So ideally, you should break your goals into smaller time frames in order to stay motivated and pace yourself. Next is tip number 5, structured practice routine. So don't be tempted to dive right into your pieces. Make sure you get a little warm-up practice first, for at least 5 or 10 minutes if you have it. Not only will this improve your knowledge overall, but it will also warm up your fingers nicely to be able to perform better than starting from fresh. You should try and get a few minutes of scales and arpeggios in also before you start into your pieces. A couple of minutes at sight reading also is invaluable. Make sure to work on new, inspiring pieces, as well as reviewing old pieces. And after practicing your pieces, you may want to incorporate some fun time into your practice with things like improvisation, composing, or perhaps a theory exercise or game. Tip number 6, break into sections. So after you've done your warm-up, it's a good idea to read through your piece, and instead of trying to tackle it in one sitting, it's far better to break it down into small bite-sized sections. You can start slowly at either half or even a quarter speed. You can play the sections hands separately first and then hands together. Repeat until you're comfortable and then either move on to the next section or stick with the current section and work on playing at a faster speed. After you've worked on each section, you may then want to start putting them together and then eventually play the piece from the beginning to the end. So, by breaking into sections, this is far more effective practice than always starting from the beginning and playing right through to the end, possibly making some of the same mistakes over and over and more tiring. Tip 7. Start and finish with something enjoyable. So, it's a good idea to keep your practice interesting and varied, to have a piece or two that you really enjoy playing, and to spend a few minutes near the start of your practice session and at the end playing through these pieces that you enjoy. And ideally, they'll have some challenge for you, so nothing that's too easy. You want to feel a sense of achievement also, that you're making progress and learning something new each practice session. Tip number 8. Listen. So this is like practice away from practice. And there's a number of ways in which you can listen in relation to your piano practice. So the first one is recording yourself and your playing and listening back to it. So you can record your playing simply with a phone, a mic, or whatever device you have nearby. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. And just listening back and see what you notice. And maybe identify the sections that are your weakest or that you need to revisit. You can also go away and listen to other performances of your current pieces online in your own time when you're nice and relaxed. This can be really good aural training and you get a better sense of what's happening within the music. And another way you can listen is by listening to new music that you haven't discovered before. It could be piano playing or anything really that inspires you and perhaps something that you'd like to learn someday. Tip 9. Varied repertoire. So I've kind of touched against this in some of the other tips. It's really important to try and vary your repertoire or list of pieces that you play, particularly if you're preparing for an exam or a big recital. And this is to develop your skills, to motivate you, to keep your practice fresh and interesting, and also for your confidence, to know that you're able to play different styles. Want to try and avoid playing the same kind of pieces all the time. Some people like to do that, but I think it's worth trying different styles from time to time, and you'll never know what you discover. And thinking to the future for recitals, be it formal or informal, it's a good idea to have at least 3 to 5 pieces in good shape that are ready or almost ready to play, and these should be a mix of some easy pieces and some challenging, depending on where you'll be performing. And last but not least, tip number 10, using correct fingers. So the way you move your fingers and your hands affects the outcome of your piano playing. So some general guidelines are not to use your index fingers exclusively. You want to include all the fingers, and this should make the movement of the hand smoother and more economical. Each piece is different, and there may be more than one way of using the fingers. Ideally, you'll have a piano teacher to help you figure out the correct fingers, but if not, if you can try find the most comfortable fingering with the smoothest transition between the notes, that will be a good start. So that's the end of the tutorial. Thanks for watching. I hope you learned something new, or perhaps it reminded you of a few things you'd forgotten. I'd love to hear from you in the comments if you've anything to add, any questions, or maybe you have a request for another video. And also, if you liked my video and you haven't subscribed already, I would love you to do so right now by clicking on the subscribe and the bell icons. See you soon!